So first off, I wanted to do that mindset, and I wanted to talk about Chris Voss and Never Split the Difference. I read the book about 5 years ago, first time, and I refer back to it occasionally. My brother-in-law, he recommends a bunch of books to me, and this was one that he did. And my mother-in-law, my wife, and me, we all kind of read at the same time. It's funny because we
Oh,
do that with the Bible. We'll read certain books of the Bible, and then we'll like all sit down and have our Bible study. So we were having a Never Split the Difference study. But just to let you know a little bit about who Chris Voss is, he is a former FBI hostage negotiator, and he is the number one well-known, number one negotiator in the world. He is the person that they call in when they have a sticky situation. Some of those movie scenes that you see where they do the negotiations, he would be that guy. And they are techniques that are so simple. And once you start applying them to what you do, I see people doing it online. I see online marketers doing it. Whether
hmm.
they know they're doing it or not, they heard it or they picked it up from somebody that knows about the strategy. But my wife and I have used it with our kids. We've used it with negotiating for a new car. I've used it for negotiating for a pay raise or on a new job, like a salary negotiation. I've used it for that as well. And they're super easy. Uh, it's almost like dumbed down language, and they're like little mind games that you play, and it's really incredible. So I just wanted to share it, and we can use it in our messages when we're talking with people. We can use it in our captions and even our written posts, and it's really cool. So I said, whether you're dealing with a business deal, family matters, or everyday conversations, the skills that we'll explore today will help communicate more effectively and empathetically. So the first thing that he talks about is called mirroring. And what
Hmm.
mirroring is this technique involves repeating the last few words or the key phrases someone else has just said. And it's funny because my 8-year-old picked up on us doing it, and now he does it all the time. And you probably hear other kids do it too because it's kind of a natural thing. But basically, as an example, if someone expresses, "I'm worried about meeting the project deadline," you would mirror that by saying, "Meeting the project deadline?" And all you're doing is repeating their last few words.
Hmm.
And that's all I say. And to them, what they're going to then do is say, "Yeah, well, we were given all this work and then we had a ridiculous timeline and I don't know how we're expected to do it." And they go, blah, 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 blah. So it's something to get them to say more
Open up.
than they
Yeah.
wanted to. It gets them to open up. Exactly. So by using that one little thing, it's, well, I don't want to go to grandma's house. Don't want to go to grandma's house? Well, no, because I have to stop. I can't play with my friends. I have to turn the TV. And it brings them to do all this stuff. And it's like, whoa, I'm like, who did that? I didn't want to say anything and I did. I lost.
So you don't want to say, so why don't you want to go to grandma's house? You just say
Yeah,
you don't want to go to
because
grandma's house?
because I don't want to. And they shut down automatically. But
Okay.
by just repeating it, they're like, what? You didn't understand me? So I'm going to have to explain it to you. And that's what they do. It's crazy. So this prompts them to continue talking about their concerns, giving you more insight into how you assist or address the issue, which is really cool.
Okay.
The next thing that he talks about is labeling. So we have mirroring and then we have labeling. And this one is the one that you'll hear and see, and it's fun to use. Uh, but it's about recognizing and verbalizing the emotions or sentiments that you detect in someone else's communication. So that's like the book definition. So you're softening phrases like, "it seems like," or "it sounds like," and then you almost give your interpretation on the situation. So before describing the emotion, which helps the conversation remain empathetic and non-confrontational. For example, when you notice a team member is anxious, you might say, "It seems like you're feeling anxious about this part of the project." So you're addressing it, and again to them, they're like, "Well, yeah, I am because blah 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 blah," and they just spew out the answer. So I've been on a job interview and negotiation, and one thing that I do, so their famous question is, "How much you looking to be paid?" Well, as soon as you open your mouth, that job could be 60,000 to 100,000, but maybe it's posted online for 60 to 70. But they'll pay the right person 100, but you're not going to mention it because that's not what the job showed.
Hmm.
So instead of me saying, usually when somebody's given a range, this is something else that Chris Voss talks about, is when you're given a range 60 to 70, the person paying automatically thinks 60. They go right to that bottom, whereas I'm thinking the top. So when you give a range, make sure that your bottom point is actually your high point. So if I'm going for a job that's $100,000 and I want to get 125,000, I might say, well, I'm looking to be in the range of 125 to 150,000. So you got the 150,000 out there, but you're really shooting it for that 125. And to them, you're settling for that because that's your low point. But in actuality, it's your high point. So I felt that was really cool.
Okay.
And I mentioned that, good morning, Dean. Welcome.
Oh, hey there, Dean.
There's the man. I say, looks like you're in the forest, but in the car with the moon sunroof.
I'm at the beach, so you know
Oh,
that's
you're
where I
muted.
want to be.
He's muted.
Good morning, guys.
Good
Good
morning.
morning.
Yeah, so I'm gonna be commuting, so I'm gonna can't pay too much attention as far as I'm gonna be listening in while I'm driving.
Yeah,
Okay.
awesome. I
All
have
right.
a video that I did yesterday. I was on a call with Chantel,
Uh-huh.
and I think Josh was in it, and a handful of other people on the Wednesday morning. Yeah, so the other day, the Wednesday morning one that we do,
Okay.
and I was actually videoing it while I was on it, and of course I'm looking at the road, and my one camera is on me, and I have my work camera over here just videoing me. I'm
Right.
still watching the road, but
Right.
it's about perspective. I was telling
That's
Jerry
right.
I've worked into the multi-camera editing, so I have like now I have my Zoom, but I'm also using Camtasia.
Oh,
So I'm
nice.
recording my screen for when I do
Right.
use it, and I'm recording my other monitor just in case I happen to go over there.
Oh, wow.
So by the time I'm done, I'll have 5 videos, all of different perspectives on the same
All
timeline.
different angles. Right.
Yeah,
That is awesome. That is
it's really
awesome.
cool. So it's
Yeah, man, that is awesome.
funny to see where you are, looking back like, wow, I'm at that point where I'm using like 5, 6 different
I
cameras
know,
and
I know, I
lights
know, I know, I know. It's great to see the evolution, man. It's awesome.
yeah,
Awesome, awesome, awesome.
it is. So we were just going over some of the mindset, and I'm actually talking about a book that I recommend fully. I talked about it last session that we had, but it's called Never Split the Difference by Chris Voss, who is
Okay.
a world class, like the best. He was an FBI negotiator. I think he's like private now. He does negotiating for businesses and anything else.
Right.
But he's been head to head with Harvard and Yale professors,
Okay.
and he ends up just easily putting it over on them. Like
Right.
they do these mock negotiation, like hostage situations,
Right.
and they end up giving up. And they're like, "How do you do it?" Like I couldn't.
Wow.
Like I was sweating in my chair when you were talking to me, and I couldn't do it anymore. I had to give up.
Wow.
And he's like, "It's just it's psychology. Now we have psychology in sales, and it's in anything, and this can be applied in business and home with kids and all." So, but I was just talking about labeling, where you say it seems like or it sounds like, and it gives them a perspective on your interpretation at the moment of the situation. And it pulls information out of them by not asking for it.
Right.
And another thing that they call, he actually used to have a group called the Black Swan, and that was his YouTube channel name, which has since changed. But the Black Swan is a technique that involves identifying critical, unexplained pieces of information that can dramatically influence the outcome of a negotiation. And these are all things that you kind of know, but you don't implement and you don't think
Of
of as
course.
techniques.
Right.
So if you are in a discussion, if a client casually mentions a significant upcoming business change that hasn't been brought up before, this could be a black swan. So with new information, you might need to adjust your approach or proposal to better align with the client's needs or situation. So a finer example would be if they say, well, we're looking for a video package, that kind of really fits our needs because right now we're on a tight budget and blah, 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 blah. So now you just kind of you heard on a fixed budget. So you want to develop a package that maybe entails, quite a bit for a lower budget kind of thing. You want to make it feel more than it is, maybe the way that you pitch it or whatever you want to say. So little things that you hear, even when you're talking with, employers or you're buying a washer and dryer and you're trying to knock the guy down on price. And he mentioned something about yeah, this couple last week was in and they got this great deal. It's almost like we gave it away. You bank it. And then later on, you're like, well, you did, you gave the other couple last week, this great deal. And I don't see why you can't do it for me too. And it's just these little things that you pick up on, but it's a great book. Again, I have a link on the doc for the mindset today. It is my affiliate link, but feel welcome to take a look at that. And it's one of my first books that I read from front to back, because I've mentioned before with narcolepsy, it's hard for me to read, but lately I've been on a book mission. So it's just been really cool. And I'm so grateful that they have audiobooks, because that's what I do. I usually audiobooks, especially when I'm driving. But so his strategies are not only effective in face-to-face negotiations, but also incredible value to the digital realm. So when you're mirroring in customer communications, we want to look at how we're going to deal with that with comments and responses to our posts. So somebody has a comment and you could say, it seems like, and then that's going to prompt the response back. You're not asking them a question, because a lot of times when you ask too many questions, they just stop interacting, especially when it's in front of everybody.
Mm-hmm.
But when you say it sounds like, then they feel the need, they have to respond.
To explain themselves. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And then labeling in content creation can help you connect emotionally with your audience. For instance, if your video scripts or posts use phrases like "it seems," many of us feel overwhelmed by choices. It'll be a great hook, because you're not asking a question, but you're prompting them to give more. So it's going to get their juices flowing. So it's going to engage viewers by acknowledging their feelings, making your content more relatable and compelling. And then just kind of listening for those black swans, those little hidden things that we can bring up later. And that's something that we do in sales too. We'll talk about how much they want something, and they have to have this feature and this feature and this feature. So later on, when you're asking for the sale, you say, well, when we were talking about XYZ, you mentioned that you need to have this and you need to have that, and this has it. So it's just a way to do that. But so what I would encourage anyone to do is, even without reading the book or even knowing these, just knowing what it is, it seems like, and it sounds like, try applying the techniques in your next conversation, in real conversations. Notice how they change the dynamics of the interaction. And when you notice people do it, you're like, ooh, it works. And you do it more. So me and my wife do it. When we first did this, we were doing it to each other all the time. And then we noticed, like, she was doing it to the kids, and I'm like, oh, she's doing it. So it's really cool to see, and to the reaction that you actually get from it. So that is it for the mindset. I look forward to jumping into the next one, which is going to be